They're taking away her stool. No apple cart either. Apple box that you stand on. You know, box.
Got it. We got it.
You got it. Fox and Friends starts right now. What?
All right, we want to take you right to that Fox News alert this morning. There is a massive manhunt underway right now after a gunman shot 5 people dead inside a shopping mall just north of Seattle.
I heard about 1, and then 2, and then that's when I turned around, and then that's when round started going 1, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Right now, police are scouring the area for this man seen on surveillance video carrying a rifle.
Now, police describe him as a Hispanic male. There he is, in his 20s, wearing all black. He's considered to be armed and dangerous at this hour. And we want to bring in from Washington State this morning, Trooper Heather Axman on the phone to give us some updates on how this all unfolded. Thanks for joining us at this early hour. What can you tell us at this hour?
Sir, just before 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time last night, we were receiving 911 calls of shots being fired at the Cascade Mall in Burlington, Washington. That's about 65 miles north of Seattle. We believe that it's just the one shooter at this time. He is being described as a Hispanic male wearing gray or dark clothing. He was last seen walking west from the mall towards Interstate 5, which is the main corridor in this area. He is described to have a long gun, a rifle type weapon, and unfortunately there are 5 confirmed victims, 4 females and 1 male.
Heather, what are you advising people in that area to do right now since he is still on the loose?
Since there is such a large manhunt going on, we have a large police presence. We are tracking every single lead that we have. Several detectives and police officers are still at the mall, gathering still as much information as we can. And like I said, following as many leads as possible. At this time, we are urging people to stay inside of their homes. If they see anything suspicious, then we urge them to call 911. We don't have a tip line at this point, but one will be coming out, I'm sure, shortly. But anything that you see suspicious, call 911.
Are there any indications as to motive, Heather? Did he say anything in the course of shooting these people?
I don't have any knowledge that he said anything, and it's extremely early in the investigation to figure out any type of motive.
So we don't know, are you familiar with whether or not he knew any of the victims?
I don't have that information.
Okay. Was this a gun-free zone also?
I'm not sure if there's any signs posted at the Burlington Mall. There is a gun-free zone. And we have an open carry state here in Washington, which means that you can have a weapon in the open carry style, but there's a lot of places that are still marked gun-free.
Well, and Heather, I think as you mentioned, 4 of the women that have been killed, they were shot inside the beauty department. Is that right, in the makeup department?
I'm not sure exactly what portion, but they are inside Macy's, which is the large department store in that mall.
Were police or security officers there able to return fire or engage him in any kind of way before he ran out?
No, he left before any police officer arrived.
And can you tell us again what time this occurred?
Just before 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
All right, Heather, so you are advising people to stay in place where they are if they live in that area, but if they see anything, can you again describe this man and how people might be helpful at this time?
At this point, the description that we have is pretty vague. It's a Hispanic male, early 20s, I believe, dark clothing, gray. The surveillance video does capture his photo that we have released. If anybody has the information of who he is, they're urged to call authorities.
All right. Heather Axman, State Trooper from Washington State. Thanks a lot for the update. We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry. More on that.
What a
Hoping
sad
for the
story.
best there, yeah.
All right, so there are 2 days before the first debate is going to be taking place at Hofstra University on Long Island here in New York. And Hillary Clinton, who has not been on the trail much recently at all, she hasn't been doing fundraisers. She skipped one recently in North Carolina. She had planned to go to Charlotte in the wake of the riots you've seen there over the last couple of days. But after the mayor of that city asked public figures to stay away, she canceled those plans. Here's the mayor of Charlotte, Jennifer Roberts.
We appreciate the support of the candidates. We are concerned about Charlotte. At this point, we do have very stretched resources for security, and they are working around the clock. If there will be a way to delay those visits in terms of giving us a chance to get our city, back to order and back to more of a state of normalcy, that would probably be ideal.
So what's going on here? Optics in politics, right? We saw the flooding in Louisiana. Donald Trump, when President Obama stayed on Martha's Vineyard, Hillary Clinton was nowhere to be seen. Officials there were saying, look, we would appreciate people coming, however, just wait because we've got a lot of resources that we need to get on the ground. Donald Trump shows up, he's unloading boxes, and it seemed to really, it seemed to paint a good picture of him. Even Democratic politicians were saying Donald Trump's appearance in Louisiana was strong.
Right. And Hillary Clinton's people, from what we've heard of, were trying to rush her to the scene to get there, maybe before Donald Trump does, to make it look better politically, to then which, of course, Donald Trump tweeted out saying crooked Hillary's bad judgment forced her to announce that she would go to Charlotte on Saturday to grandstand. Dem politicians said, no way, dumb.
But see, if she had gone, what would she have said? I mean, here you have not protests, but riots. You have racist mobs hurting people because of their skin color, looting stores, burning things. They tried to throw a journalist into a bonfire. This is not a legitimate series of protests. This is chaos. This is lunacy. And these are people who Hillary Clinton has openly endorsed Black Lives Matter. So if she'd gone, what would she have said?
Probably something similar to what she said about Tulsa, right? I mean, she would have said, this is an outrage, we need to come together, I need to talk to white people and tell them that we need to be listening. That's what she said.
Well, she would have hurt herself if she said that, because that's actually nuts. What you're watching is a full breakdown of society. I mean, it's not an endorsement of what the police did. We're not exactly sure what the details of that shooting are.
No, but you saw that she came out so early on in this one to put the blame on the police, which is so unusual for her character, because usually she sits back when there's like a terrorist attack or something else. She doesn't come out, and she did come out very early, and many people said, you don't know all the facts. We haven't even seen the video. We still haven't seen the video.
But that's what President Obama does in these police shootings, right? And these police-involved incidents. He comes right out and he, defends the victim immediately, or comes right out and talks about them.
But when you have a mob of people screaming racial epithets and trying to burn people alive, I think you can say that's bad.
Right.
And yet the president and Hillary have refused to say that for political reasons. They're playing with fire. This is dangerous stuff.
Well, we also saw, of course, recent spat of terrorist attacks in the past few weeks, and we know that Monday night, the first debate at Hofstra University, all eyes on Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton and their performances. And they're going to be talking about terrorism, but can you believe we've been 2 days?
I can't believe that.
And we know that they've been preparing in different ways over the past
I wish
few
I
weeks.
could be a fly on the wall for both of the preparations, because both the styles are going to be very different.
Well, it's complicated to prepare Hillary for one of these debates. So normally you sit down and you have people fill in the roles, right? Someone plays the other side. Right. But in the case of the Hillary campaign, no one who works for her feels comfortable playing Donald Trump, because they're so afraid of her. And so they had to pull in her old spokesman, Philippe Reigns, who has a reputation well-deserved as being so nasty he doesn't care. And he's playing Donald Trump. But nobody who works for Hillary dared pretend to be Donald Trump.
And also, was it Karen Dunn who's been brought in? She was, remember after President Obama's awful performance, that first debate against Mitt Romney in the last go-around, they brought her in to basically get in his face and pull it together. And then his second debate performance, President Obama's, he kind of came back to life at Hofstra. Yeah. So they brought her in to kind of help Hillary out of the gate.
Well, the stakes are so high. I've heard from some people saying that whoever wins these debates could go on to win the White House. That is how important they are. And they just released some of the rules, one of them being no commercial breaks, no step stool, which Hillary Clinton has asked for. And so, you think about her and the trouble she's had lately with coughing, other things, that if that does happen, they're not going to go to a break. So there could be some awkward moments.
Well, when Tucker and I stand next to each other, like I wear lifts because I don't want to look smaller.
I do too.
I didn't want to say anything, but I'm glad you made it publicly.
I wear Spanx, he wears lifts, we're all set.
But, what Donald Trump is like, he's like 7'5". He's really tall.
Yeah, he's
and there's a huge disparity between...
She's 5'4".
5'4", and so she was worried that the optics, again, standing there looking diminished next to him.
I think she's going to be fine. I mean, the truth is, it's all about Trump.
Right.
He needs to meet a credibility
Right.
threshold. If he stays calm, he'll win the debate. I mean, everyone in the press will say, he's crazy, he lost. But the truth is, people just want to know that he's reliable enough to be president, if he can do that.
He's got
But 90 minutes with no commercial
breaks?
breaks?
I wouldn't be into it at all.
And if she has some sort of coughing problem, they're not allowed to cut her microphone or his microphone. They have to remain. There's no manipulation allowed with the microphones.
Ooh. So Rudy Giuliani has been in a tough... I'm sorry.
Well, luckily we do have a big show today to ask some of the guests about the debates and some advice they have. Rudy Giuliani is joining us, Michael Flynn, Chuck Woolery, Eric Bolling, and Geraldo Rivera.
Wow.
So,
it's only 6:10 in the morning on the East Coast, but I am so excited for the next 3 hours and 49 minutes. I literally can't stand it. So
we've got a
stay
great
tuned.
show.
yeah. All right, we do have some other headlines to get to this morning, starting with a Fox News alert. And chaos erupts again in Charlotte for the fourth night in a row. Protesters defying the mandated curfew to demand justice for Keith Scott, a black man shot by a black police officer. In this video, taken near the scene of that shooting, just released by the victim's widow. Watch.
Keith, don't you do it. Don't you do it. Keith, don't you do it. Did you shoot him?
Wow. Well, police stated that suspect did have a gun. It was loaded, and both his blood and his fingertips were on it. Yet the department still refusing to release dash cam or body cam video of the shooting. Chilling new details from the investigation into the suspected New York bomber Ahmed Rahami. Sources saying that he rode the train carrying those pipe and pressure cooker bombs into Manhattan on the night of the blast. The first bomb injured dozens of people. The second never went off. Rahami remains in stable condition after being hunted down and shot by police. Well, did the FBI catch President Obama in a lie? Brand new FBI docs dumped last night, revealing the president used a fake name to email Hillary Clinton on her private server. Remember, President Obama said he didn't know about her private server until he heard about it in the press. And is Kim Kardashian ready to board the Trump train? Caitlyn Jenner may have convinced her to switch from Hillary Clinton to Donald Trump. Though she openly endorsed the Democratic nominee last fall, she tells Wonderland magazine, quote, "At first I thought, oh my God, I'm so Hillary, but I had a long political call with Caitlyn last night about why she's voting Trump. Now I'm on the fence." Those are your headlines. I mean, that could really change the game, you guys. I'm not sure about this.
Wait, can I just say
Caitlyn
Jenner, Bruce Jenner, whatever we're calling Jenner,
Caitlyn Jenner
is voting Trump?
Yeah.
Did I miss that?
She's long said that she's a Republican.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, good. Hillary Clinton has a question, meanwhile. Watch this.
Now, having said all this, why aren't I 50 points ahead, you might ask?
Yeah, you might ask.
It might be because she's losing Democrats, including our next guest. We're going to meet a Dem who switched sides to win the Midwest for Trump.
Plus, Gary Johnson is more than just a slip of the tongue during the interview. Watch this.
And not say anything all debate, and not say anything, and emerge as a leader.
What?
So marijuana is harmless? Yeah. Think again.
Well, can you hear me now?
Why aren't I 50 points ahead, you might ask? Well, the choice for working families has never been clearer. I need your help to get Donald Trump's record out to everybody. Nobody should be fooled.
That was Hillary Clinton shouting her way through a video address on Wednesday to the Laborers International Union of North America.
And that tone could be part of the reason some Midwest Democrats are switching sides and rallying around Donald Trump. Joining us now is the executive director of the Trumpocrats PAC, Christian Rickers. Christian, good to have you here. Thanks for waking up so early this morning.
Good morning.
All right, so you were a
delegate.
delegate.
That was a wake-up call, that last...
That will wake you up. So you were a delegate for President Obama. You were a strong supporter of Bernie Sanders. Now you are not only supporting Trump, but you're trying to get other Democrats to get on the Trump wagon. A lot of people are saying, how do you go from Bernie Sanders to Donald Trump?
Well, I mean, our country is becoming hollowed out. Washington is broken, and there's nobody more responsible for both of those things than Bill and Hillary Clinton. And Donald Trump has promised to rebuild our infrastructure and bring jobs back to this country. You know, a couple of weeks ago, Ford Motor Company said they're sending their whole entire small car manufacturing plant in Mexico. And we got to stop this stuff, and Donald Trump has pledged to do it.
You heard Hillary there wondering why she's not 50 points up, and she's saying this is the responsibility of the laborers to get out there and to vote for us, to vote for me. What do you think is wrong with her tone there? What did she miss?
I don't know. Something is definitely off there. She, either she, every time she speaks, you hear a different Hillary Clinton, and or either she's tone deaf. Regardless, I think it's pretty odd behavior.
Tell us about some of the work you're doing, because you're focusing on states like Ohio, like Pennsylvania, states that Trump absolutely has to win the White House. What are you doing in those states, and can he win them?
We have targeted, done some data mining, and have over 850,000 voters that we're targeting in 10 counties in Pennsylvania, another 500,000 of them in Ohio. We've had hundreds of thousands of Democrats and independents that have switched already in the primaries to vote for Donald Trump. These are, and we're also going to try to, if we raise enough money, which this is a grassroots effort, unlike some of the other super PACs, we're going to go into Virginia, North Carolina, and parts of Florida. And we're ready to do that. We're going through next week and distributing 10,000 signs in the Pittsburgh to Cleveland corridor starting on next Sunday after the debates.
All right, you mentioned independents, and who are Trumpocrats? You said blue collar. What other characteristics do they have?
You know, somebody asked me the other day, I mean, are these women or minorities or blacks or traditional Democratic constituencies? And I said they're all of that, all of the above. We have, and independents. There are millions of Americans that have lost their jobs. They're underemployed, unemployed. A lot of people have gone to, on disability. They're not able to provide for their families anymore. And this, people are sick and tired of it. They're really sick and tired.
All right, Christian Rickers, thanks for being with us this morning. Appreciate your time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, now to a Fox News alert. Brand new video showing what sparked the riots in Charlotte. A black cop shoots a black man with a gun, but the official video still under wraps. Should we take the police at their word? That's next.
And caution dead man voting. Seriously.
Really?
Wonder who they're casting their ballots for? We'll tell you.
That's a tease.
Chaos continuing in the city of Charlotte for the fourth night in a row. Protesters demanding justice for a black man shot by police. Now, there's a brand new video of that shooting. Mike Tobin is live from Charlotte with the latest details this morning. Mike, what's going on?
Well, what you see behind me right now are empty streets. The demonstrations went well past the curfew last night. With no significant trouble, the police kept them marching until the numbers had dwindled significantly. And just about 3 a.m., they executed arrests. I counted about 7 people who had been arrested, or really I counted exactly 7 people who had been arrested. And police said the individuals that they picked up, they had their eye on them throughout the evening because these individuals were making trouble. Now, at its peak, the demonstration was about 400 strong. The release of cell phone video showing the moments before and after Keith Scott was shot seems to have only cemented their resolve.
Keith, Keith, don't you do it. Don't you do it. Keith, 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 don't you do it. Did you shoot him?
Now, these protesters are demanding the release of additional video that only police have possession of right now. Dash cam and body camera video. Thus far, only the family members of Mr. Scott and their attorneys have seen it. A statement from the attorney says, while police did give him several commands, he did not aggressively approach them or raise his hands at members of law enforcement at any time. It is impossible to discern from the videos what, if anything, Mr. Scott is holding in his hands. And what we are seeing here is very similar to what we saw in Ferguson. A narrative took hold early when new evidence is introduced, such as the gun, that there's information that there was a gun introduced that has fingerprints and DNA on it. That is simply dismissed as a lie. The original narrative is accepted as fact. Guys, back to you in New York.
Mike Tobin in Charlotte, North Carolina. Thanks a lot, Mike. Let's bring in our panel now. Pastor and author of Street God, Dima Salaberios, and attorney Eric Guster, both joining us live in the studios. Great to see you both.
Good to see you.
Eric, there's a lot we don't know about this shooting. The police say there is a gun that was loaded that has the DNA and the fingerprints of the man who was shot. I'm withholding judgment. I'm not withholding judgment on the riots that took place after. Why are national political leaders not saying the obvious, which is you're not allowed to set fires, to loot stores, to try and murder people just because you're unhappy about a police shooting?
See, the problem is that only happened one night. Just like we had the lead that said it was chaos, there have been 2 nights of very peaceful protest.
Okay, so you had rioters try to throw a cameraman into a bonfire.
And they should
that only happened one night?
And they should be in jail. But the protesters for the last 2 nights have been very peaceful and making their views known. But what the problem is in this case is the Charlotte Police Department is withholding information from the public that should be released, and they know it should be released. And the police chief, he needs to be reprimanded for what he said.
And you may be totally right. Demas, I'm kind of against Obamacare. Should I loot Walmart? I mean, this is not how we respond to perceived injustice, is it?
I mean, it's when you're looking at a city like Charlotte, you got lots of young people, Tucker, that are angry, they're upset, they're dealing with this. Now, is that behavior correct? No one can say that behavior is correct. I think what's happening really good now is that the clergy in Charlotte has gotten on the ground. They're ministering to people, and that's why you see a peaceful thing happening now, sort of like what's happening in Tulsa. Tulsa is a great model, and when people are praying and when people are starting off in prayer like real civil rights did back in the days of Martin Luther King, then you don't see that kind of violence. You don't see that kind of outcry, and that's what we're hoping for. I'm flying down there after I leave here to go out there and join those clergy to do the best job I can.
But violent mobs should not be influencing our justice system. That's not the way the system works. That is the collapse of society. That's chaos. You're a lawyer. You can't be for that.
No, I am for peaceful protests. I am for protesting. I am for social justice changes that need to be made. And the problem here is the leadership in Charlotte. The model is Chicago. We were just talking about how these protests were based off of a shooting that the public has been told, we have information and we're going to withhold it from you.
Right.
The family has asked the Charlotte Police Department to release the tape, release the information, because just like the Laquan McDonald shooting in Chicago, it was a bad shooting. A police chief came on television and said, this is bad, I'm going to let you know, but we're going to be totally transparent. Charlotte is not doing that. And those are the types of things that trigger reactions to people to do things.
Okay, I kind of agree with the first part. I believe in transparency, and I want more information rather than less. But what I'm really disturbed by is the instinct on the part of our leaders to make excuses for mob violence.
Yeah, I don't think there's any excuse for mob violence, and I don't think, anybody wants that. I think what happens often is you have people with anger with no place to place it. So you see white people out there just as equal as African Americans.
No, you don't actually. You don't. You saw people screaming racial epithets and hurting people on the basis of their skin color.
You were incorrect.
Send me the tape.
Yeah.
Look at your video.
Look at your footage.
Of people being attacked because of their race?
No, it was 50% white out there.
Oh, the protesters.
Yeah,
I get it. I'm just saying, you shouldn't be allowed to say, I'm attacking you because of your skin color. That's just wrong no matter what the color.
I think this thing is past race. I think
to
some degree it is the system, and people are looking at this distrust with the police department and saying, like you had Lance Tamayo, points a 9mm, white guy, points a 9mm at cops. He's talked down for 45 minutes.
Right.
All these videos, you don't even see 1 minute.
Look,
and
I'm not defending police misbehavior. I think it exists. It clearly does exist.
It does.
I just don't think you should be able to loot liquor stores and claim you're a protester.
I'm with you on that. We should not loot. We should have better leadership.
Gentlemen, you're going down there. Good luck. Eric, thanks for coming.
All right,
Great to see you both. Well, Fox News alert: terror at the mall after a shooter opens fire in a gun-free zone. This morning, 5 people are dead. The shooter remains on the run. We are live on the scene with the details that we know. Then, the FBI handing out immunity like candy, like Skittles, you might say, in the case of Hillary Clinton's email scandal. The latest person to walk free might be the most disturbing one yet. We've got the latest on that. And the tape that'll make you think twice about legalizing marijuana and voting for Gary Johnson. It has long-term effects, ladies and gentlemen. We've got the tape.
Who we are and what we've done, and based on that. I think I could stand up there for a whole debate and not say anything.
35 minutes now after the hour, back with a Fox News alert. We've just learned a fifth person has now died in the Seattle Mall massacre. A massive manhunt now underway for the gunman.
She just said there's people shooting. I heard a gunshot. I told her to just go to the bathroom and lock the door. Just lock the door and I'll be there as soon as I can. I don't know if they've even got to her yet. She's not answering her phone. I don't know if it went dead or I don't know.
Right now, police are scouring the area for this man seen on surveillance video in this black T-shirt and carrying a rifle.
Police are describing him as a Hispanic male in his 20s, so they're not exactly sure that that's true. They do know he was wearing all black. He's considered to be armed and dangerous.
All right. We want to bring in Armando Patino. He joins us now on the phone. He works in the mall, and he was there during the attack. Armando, thanks for joining us. We know it's an early hour there, 3:30 in the morning, your time. Can you tell us what you saw during the attack?
Well, at the time I was at the Whitby Coffee, and I was getting myself something to drink, and I was able to turn around, and I glanced at the Macy's. I didn't see anything personally myself. I did hear the shots. The first shot went off, the second shot went off, and I kind of just stood there because I didn't know if there was an actual gunshot or not. And then after that, then it was like round by round, shot after shot after shot. And then that's when I ran immediately to where I work at, with a bunch of people, and we were able to, lock up and stay safe until we had to evacuate.
How quickly until the police were able to get to the scene?
5 minutes, 4 minutes. I gave them a call, and when I called them, which was like a minute after I heard the shots, so they already got a call. They were already on their way. So luckily we were able to get out early, and luckily the people that came with us are safe.
Amen to that. Now, Armando, do you know if this man said anything while he was shooting? And also the police are describing him as Hispanic. I don't know if they're sure of that. Do you have any information on what he looked like, who he was?
I personally do not. I do not have any information on what he looked like. I know there was a picture out. That's the only thing that I know that I've seen so far. I did hear about him screaming and everything, but I personally didn't hear that at all. At the time that the shots went off, like I said, I ran immediately, so I had no chance.
Wait, so you heard that he was you heard that he was screaming. We haven't got that information. What did you hear he was screaming?
Oh no, when I said I heard that he was screaming, I saw it on the news saying that apparently that he was screaming a name or something like that. I personally didn't hear anything of him screaming because I went straight into the room myself.
Because you were out at this coffee station outside of the Macy's where this unfolded. When you saw when you saw the pictures of this guy, obviously, when you work at a mall like that, you tend to know a lot of people who work at the mall. Have you ever seen this guy before?
I have not. When I saw the picture, I never saw the person ever. And it's crazy because it's a small town, so usually you think, you'll be able to recognize, but I have no clue on this.
So you don't know if he worked at the mall, is I guess what I'm getting.
Definitely, yes, yeah. I did not know.
About what time did this happen? Did you start to hear the shots? And was this a busy time for the mall? Were there a lot of people there at the time? Our mall tends to vary. Some days we will be super busy and some days won't. Today, in the midst of all that, I'm actually glad to say that we weren't that busy because then there would be more people in the mall. But that being said, it was probably around like 6:30ish. I'm thinking, or 6:40ish when it happened because I remember being outside evacuated and it was already 7 o'clock, 7 something. So. Wow. All right. Well, we are really hoping for the best here and really appreciate you being with us this morning and giving us your insights and what you heard at that time as more information is coming in this morning. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Armando.
for being here.
Thank you.
just a sad new reality we face of walking to a mall. You never know what you're going to expect.
It's shocking.
You know, it's really sad. Hoping that for the best there. We do have some other headlines to get to this morning. We are learning that another top Hillary Clinton aide given immunity by the FBI in the now closed email probe. Cheryl Mills, Clinton's former chief of staff, the fifth person to strike a similar deal. Well, chair of the House Oversight Committee, Jason Chaffetz, is outraged, saying, quote, no wonder they couldn't prosecute a case. They were handing out immunity deals like candy. Authorities now suspect Russian hackers were behind the massive cyber attack at Yahoo, and this after the company catching serious flack for the breach where 500 million user account information was exposed. Yahoo says hackers were looking for info on just a few dozen others who were doing business with Russia. A New York man is now suing Yahoo for gross negligence. And if you can believe it, just 44 days until the election, and some folks will not let anything keep them from voting. Listen to this. In Colorado, that includes being dead, apparently. A bombshell local news investigation revealing dead men and women have been casting ballots for years. State voting officials say they have to follow strict criteria to remove names from voting rolls, and minor errors could lead to mistaken votes.
All the dead people voted Democrat, by the way. Well, you thought this was bad.
What would you do if you were elected about Aleppo? About Aleppo.
And what is Aleppo?
You're kidding.
No.
Aleppo is in Syria.
You can't get enough of this sucker.
So, of course, MSNBC decided to have Libertarian presidential candidate Gary Johnson back for another interview. How could you not? He's the guest of the century. Here's the interview from Thursday night. Watch this.
People would recognize that there's another choice and that there would be an examination of me and Bill Weld as who we are and what we've done, and not based on that.
I think I could stand up there for the whole debate and not say anything and emerge as a leader.
Look at her bounce backwards.
What is happening there?
What's going on?
I'll tell you what's happening. We have conclusive evidence that marijuana does have long-term effects.
Now,
it's true.
He did say in his 60 Minutes interview, because I asked him, did you still smoke pot right now? He said, no, I don't.
No, I mean the cumulative effects over decades of regular use.
When you interview politicians, you take a lot of time to prepare for these things. In that moment, I think there was nothing she could have done to prepare her.
All she did was the appropriate response, Rick, right? She goes...
It's very rare a presidential candidate threatens you with his tongue.
Very
but
true.
Of course.
Rick.
I think it might have been much more short-term effects than long-term effects.
That's true.
It's very possible. All right, guys, let's talk a little bit of weather out there. A lot happened this week. A lot of flooding in parts of the Carolinas and Virginia as well as in across the northern plains. Take a look at the map, show you what's going on temperature-wise as well. Out across the west, we have snow. Snow, it's the first time I've said that word, but we have some across the higher elevations. Still very warm across the central plains and the southeast. The northeast, where it's been hot in the Great Lakes, take a look at the temperatures in the next couple of days. Fall is here, at least for a bit. It looks like it's going to actually stick around for the next couple of days. We have a storm out by Bermuda. That's Carl. And we have a little bit more rain moving towards Iowa. But Iowa, where we have big flooding going on right now, guys, it looks like maybe an inch or so over the next few days we will begin to dry out, which is good news. All right, we'll send it back to you inside.
Thanks a million, Rick.
Well, a woman takes matters into her own hands after a thief steals her purse. The dramatic showdown all caught on camera.
Gotta see this. And we are 2 days away now from the first presidential debate. What can Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump learn from the past?
These are the kind of elements of a national health insurance important to the American people. Governor Reagan, again, typically is against such a proposal.
Governor, there you go again.
Hey, welcome back. Just 2 days until Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump face off for the very first time at Hofstra University in that debate. So what can we learn from past memorable debate moments? Here now with his advice is Scott Jennings, former special assistant to President George W. Bush. Nice to see you this morning, Scott.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Take your podium. We have no special rules this morning. So this morning we're going to dive into some history here, and you're going to give us the lesson learned. So let's start with Ronald Reagan implying that Jimmy Carter is lying by saying, there you go again. Watch this famous quote.
These are the kind of elements of a national health insurance important to the American people. Governor Reagan, again, typically is against such a proposal.
Governor, there you go again.
And I guess Reagan at the time was sort of seen as radical before this debate, right?
Yeah, he was also seen as being in the driver's seat in this election. I'm not sure if anything could have helped Jimmy Carter in 1980, but there's something important about staying calm and knowing when the attack is coming and what is coming. And instead of getting worked up and feeling like you're defensive, Ronald Reagan looked in control of the situation and had something ready for an attack that he knew was coming. So it shows you that prep is important, and they knew they were going to get that attack, and so he was prepped with a calm answer.
So Donald Trump could probably take something away from this. Reserved response. All right, here's in 2000, Al Gore trying to intimidate George W. Bush. Watch this famous moment.
That's what the question in this campaign is about. It's not only what's your philosophy and what's your position on issues, but can you get things done? And I believe I can. All right.
That was such a bizarre moment. He just walks over to him, stands next to him. It's like, what are you doing here? And I thought he handled it beautifully.
Yeah, the President of the United States, who I worked for, and I was working on that. That was my first presidential campaign. So when we saw that moment, cheers went up from the Bush-Cheney headquarters all over the country. But the issue there is demeanor. We look for the President of the United States to be strong. We look for strong body language from our president. And so Al Gore clearly had rehearsed this little moment where he was going to try to intimidate George W. Bush, and Bush handled it perfectly. And that was sort of a microcosm of what was happening in the campaign. Gore was a little bit weak. Bush was running as a strong governor, and that debate moment played right into the sort of narrative of that campaign.
And then Al Gore sighing through another whole debate.
Yeah,
and he learned his lessons there. Scott, we're going to have you back, I think, next hour. We're going to dive deeper into some of these moments and lessons learned from these debates. Thanks so much, Scott. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, coming up here on the show, we've still got a big show on tap. Rudy Giuliani will be here. Lieutenant General Michael Flynn and Chuck Woolery all will be here. Plus, Eric Bolling and Geraldo Rivera will also join us live. We've got a jam-packed show.
We are back and continuing our celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month. Fox News correspondent Brian Yenes sat down with some interesting people this year and joins us now with a closer look. Good to see you, Brian.
Good morning, Abby. Yeah, this is an inspiring one. Daniel Lubetsky, the founder of Kind Snacks, which we all know and love, is someone who combines his Hispanic heritage, and he told us a little bit of his story when we sat down with him at the New York City Kind headquarters.
I grew up in Mexico City in pretty unusual set of circumstances as the son of a Holocaust survivor in a tightly knit Jewish community.
Daniel's childhood was a happy one, but his family never forgot where they came from or what they went through.
My dad was 9 years old when the war started, and he was sent to a ghetto and then to a concentration camp and then to a second concentration camp in Dachau. So by the time he was liberated by American soldiers, he was 15 and a half. He immigrated to Mexico, learned Spanish by watching movies and reading books. He was one of the most educated men you would ever meet. Even though he never forgot the horrors of the Holocaust, he also found the kindness in people that helped him survive. He always remembered those moments.
Taking everything he learned from his father and combining it with his own creativity and tireless drive, Daniel built an incredibly successful company that does more than just business.
The promise of Kind, our mission, is to do the kind thing for your body, for your taste buds, and for your world. So for your body, it's about nutritionally rich foods. For your taste buds, they have to be delicious. And for your world, it's about trying to inspire kindness in the world, which is obviously what gives me the most meaning. We're giving $1 million away to people that are not looking for credit, but are really making a difference in their communities. We also have something called Kind Causes, where every month anybody can upload their proposal for how they would like the community to get behind them, and then the community through Kind Act selects them. But one of my favorites is the simplest small Kind Acts, where I carry with me in my wallet these Kind cards, Kind Awesome cards, and if I notice somebody doing a Kind Act for a total stranger, then I give them this Kind Awesome card, and they go to the website, enter their information, and we send them a couple Kind bars, another card, so that they can then celebrate the next person that they spot doing the kind thing.
Infusing his background and humanitarian values in everything he does, the founder of Kind makes sure to appreciate everything that has made his success possible.
I really think that entrepreneurship goes so well with American culture because we are risk takers, we celebrate merit, we celebrate creativity, we celebrate risk, and we can't take for granted any of these things. I mean, I wish my dad was here so that I could celebrate a lot of things with him when he passed away. I remember going through these things and finding a folder where he kept all of the things that I had accomplished by then, and the awards that I had received. It was just really nice to see. And that he kept memories of all the little things I had done over my 30 years of my life. And I just wish I hope that he's still listening or watching and being proud of the fact that I'm trying to follow his values and his principles and his example.
And he's just a nice example that you can achieve success and incorporate good in how you do it at the same time, Abby.
So inspiring. So well done. Brian, thanks for being here this morning.
Appreciate
Always
it.
love seeing you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, next week we hear from Ozzy Abreu, who heads Tyler Perry Studios. Look forward to that. And we are 2 days away from the big showdown, and we've just learned who's playing Trump in Hillary's mock debates. Ed Henry has all the details, and he joins us next. Good morning to you. It is Saturday, September 24th. I'm Abby Hunson. We start with a Fox News alert. A massacre at the mall. 5 people are dead after a shooter opens fire in a gun-free zone.
We're receiving shots fired at Burlington.
I've got 2 victims down bleeding in the makeup section. Unknown number of victims. Reports of 3 to 4 down inside.
This morning, police need your help finding this man. The latest on the manhunt in moments.
And then yet another Friday document dump, this one again courtesy of the FBI. This one says President Obama may have lied. What he said, perhaps to protect Hillary from losing the race. Ed Henry has all the details on that. He's next.
And what's the moderator going to do if this happens at Monday night's debate?
I've been talking so...
I'm sorry. This morning, we know what will happen if Hillary's allergies strike again. We'll tell you all the new debate rules. Fox and Friends, Hour 2 starts right now.
And we do begin with your headlines this morning. Straight to a Fox News alert. A massive manhunt underway after a gunman shoots 5 people dead inside of a shopping mall just north of Seattle. We just spoke to a witness who describes the terror and the chaos. Listen.
Shot after shot after shot. And then that's when I ran immediately to where I work at, with a bunch of people. And we were able to, lock up and stay safe until we had to evacuate.
And that was Armando. He worked at the mall, was getting coffee outside of where this massacre unfolded. All of the victims shot inside a Macy's department store. 4 of them women, 1 was a man.
Right now, police are scouring the area around the mall for this man. You see him here on surveillance video carrying a hunting rifle. Police are describing him as a Hispanic male in his 20s. They're not sure of that, but that's what they're going with right now. He was wearing all black. He's considered to be armed, of course, and dangerous. Police are urging people to stay inside their homes.
Yeah, and to call 911 if you know anything about this man or see him. But that is the latest at 7 o'clock.
And we just want to be clear. We spoke to a trooper who is acting, in effect, as a spokesman for the state police in Washington. They're calling him a Hispanic male. They don't know that.
Right.
So we should just be clear about what we don't know.
Right. This is the photo here, so it's, it's hard to tell. Armando, who we spoke to, though, earlier, who works in the mall, and when you work at, it's a small-town mall. A lot of people who work at that mall know each other. We asked him if he thought he was an employee at the mall. He said, I've never seen him before. Yeah. So we don't know what the motivation is at this hour. We don't know if he knew these girls at the makeup area or not. Police are still trying to get all of it.
We know the mall was a gun-free zone as well, and this happened, he said, around like 6:30, maybe 6:45 their time last night, and usually somewhat of a busy time at that mall. But as we know now, 4 women were in the department store that were killed. 5 altogether are dead this morning, so hoping for the best.
Yeah, apparently he was not confronted by anybody in law enforcement at the mall and was able to escape before the police arrived 5 minutes later. Really distressing story.
It really is.
We'll bring you details as we can.
We do have some other headlines to get to this morning, starting with another Fox News alert. Hillary Clinton postpones her trip to Charlotte as chaos erupts again for the 4th night in a row. Protesters defying the mandated curfew to demand justice for Keith Scott, a black man shot by a black police officer. In this video, taken near the scene of that shooting, just released by the victim's widow.
Keith, don't you do it. Don't you do it. Keith, don't you do it. Did you shoot him?
So police say that suspect had a gun, it was loaded, and had his blood and fingerprints on it. Yet the department still refusing to release dash cam or body cam video of the shooting. And chilling new details from the investigation into the suspected New York bomber Ahmaud Rahami. Sources say that he rode the train carrying those pipe and pressure cooker bombs into Manhattan on the night of the blast. The first bomb injuring dozens of people. The second never went off. Rahami remains in stable condition after being hunted down and shot by police. Well, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will meet separately with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton tomorrow. The meetings will take place in New York City, where the Prime Minister has been staying for the UN General Assembly. The Prime Minister's office says he did accept Trump's invitation only if they were able to meet with Clinton as well. And those are some of your headlines this morning.
We want to bring in Ed Henry right now to talk about some of the big political news of the morning. He's joining us from D.C. Nice to see you this morning, Ed.
Great to see you guys.
All right, so we want to break down some of the new rules we're getting, some of these leaked rules from the first debate. We're learning, I guess, if Hillary Clinton ends up having some sort of a coughing fit again, that they're not going to be able to go to commercial break or anything like that. She's got to stay up there for 90 minutes solo, no commercial breaks, right?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it's almost like expectations are now being lowered for Hillary Clinton the way they were being lowered a few weeks ago for Donald Trump, meaning if she can just get through this 90 minutes without a coughing fit, you can imagine her campaign saying, hey, that was a solid win. I mean, she didn't have to leave the stage. She wasn't carried out. I mean, this is getting a bit ridiculous because think about where we were 4-6 weeks ago. She had probably a double-digit lead. It was heading in that direction anyway, coming out of the conventions where she had this big bounce. Donald Trump had self-inflicted wounds, and there were people actually predicting then, look, the debates, it's going to be a Hail Mary for Donald Trump. This is sort of his last chance to shake up the race. Instead, we are at a much different point, and it's really Hillary Clinton going on defense.
So you're making such a smart point. I mean, our expectations are being manipulated by both campaigns here. Every one of these stories we're reading preparatory to the debate is leaked by a campaign to shape how we view the debate, correct?
Oh, no doubt about it. And talking about expectations, I was trying to think this morning, what would be an interesting comparison? Think back to the first Fox Republican primary debate, August of 2015. And I went back to Larry Sabato's crystal ball. And I don't mean to pick on him. He's on our air a lot. He's often very, very right about what he predicts. But he put out this newsletter, and I've got it right here. And heading into that first Republican debate, he said, quote, we've been waiting for Trump's poll numbers to come back to earth, but so far they haven't. Tonight, the first debate may serve as something of an inflection point for his viability as a candidate, as if he might have to drop out. And then said, should Trump be vague in his answers, demeaning towards his opponents, and flagrantly disrespectful of the debate's rules and conditions, he may get his polling comeuppance. I think he was everything there. He was disrespectful to the moderators, to the opponents, to everything, and yet there was no comeuppance. So he has defied expectations from day one.
Yeah, so no commercials in 90 minutes. Also no stool for Hillary Clinton that she was told before. She's about a foot shorter than Donald Trump. But we're also learning they've been behind closed doors preparing for these debates and having to go up against the other one. Someone has to play that role. And I think the Clinton camp has struggled up to this point to figure out who to play Donald Trump. But they found someone, one of her top aides, correct?
Yeah, Philippe Reines, who you can see him right there. I know him going back to his days as press secretary and communications director to then Senator Hillary Clinton. He's a tough operator. I mean, he's somebody who can be very nice, and he can someone who in a minute's notice can get very nasty and tough. Some of the emails that have leaked in recent years during these various stories have shown just how hard-hitting it is towards reporters. And I think the point is that he's very protective of Hillary Clinton. That's why he's been in the inner circle for a long time. But he's also not afraid of her.
That's a tough job, Ed, right? Because a lot of people say she doesn't want to be told when she's weak.
Yeah, and he's willing to say, look, this is a bad idea. Look, you need to come up with a better answer on that. And I think, again, if you go back to where all of this started, the idea was, oh, my God, Donald Trump is losing this race. The debates are his last hope to shake up this race. And instead, now we see Hillary Clinton behind closed doors for most of the last week or two. And look, Donald Trump's been very direct about saying he's not winging it, but he's barely prepping. He's been on the campaign trail instead. And there's a point there, which is Hillary Clinton is she plans things out. She's very detailed. She has more 5-point plans than anyone else. And those details may matter in this race. But in a debate, when you have limited time to make your point, you can't just come up with a dizzying array of facts. You have to finally explain, why do you want to be president? That's one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah, what's this about? So I know that President Obama's kind of faded from the headlines. He's moving toward lame duck status. But yesterday we found something really interesting in these new FBI documents that were released. You see Huma Abedin saying that she believes believes the president was emailing with Hillary Clinton using a pseudonym in his email, emailing her on her private email because that's all that she used.
Yeah.
This, if true, would directly contradict what the president claimed, that he had no idea that she used private email.
Sure.
It looks like he was just caught in a big lie. Am I misreading this?
Well, 2 quick points. On the pseudonym, I would point out that in the very early days of administration, I remember Robert Gibbs and other top aides privately telling me that President Obama was using email with various people and had a pseudonym, and that was a security thing. It had nothing to do with hiding, potentially, but basically that if someone ever found the emails, Russia or whatever, they wouldn't know that it was coming from President Obama. So I think that's a little bit of a red herring. But you're right. President Obama, I think in a 60 Minutes interview a few months back, said, I learned about her using this personal email and the server from the news reports. And yet if he was emailing with her behind the scenes once or 10 times or 100 times, that would suggest maybe that wasn't true. Bottom line, you go back to the first news conference, March of 2015, where Hillary Clinton tried to explain to the public what was going on with this personal email. One thing after another has turned out to not be true, and that is the very bottom line going into this first debate. Think about it. The idea that 5 people got immunity during this FBI investigation, yet there was no indictment, and that bombshell drops just a few days before the first debate, you can bet Donald Trump's going to be
And one of those people you mentioned that was granted immunity was Cheryl Mills, Clinton's former top aide,
former
Cheryl Mills.
chief of staff.
And then was allowed to sit with Hillary Clinton during the FBI interview, despite being a witness. Jason Chaffetz is furious about this, of course, as you can imagine.
He's saying they're handing them out candy, basically.
Yeah. Do we have that sound? Can we play? We have it. Let's play Jason Chaffetz sound. Listen to this.
I'm losing faith at a rapid pace in the FBI. I thought this was going to be a serious investigation, but the way they handed out immunity agreements, the fact that they let Hillary Clinton's chief of staff to be also a witness, an immunity recipient, and sit in on Hillary Clinton's interview is just shameful.
There you go, Ed.
Sure. Yeah, and I think going into this debate, we've laid out all the potential pitfalls for Hillary Clinton, and that is a huge one. But let's not also forget, Donald Trump has a lot to show, that he's got the temperament, he's ready to be commander-in-chief. They've been beating on him about that for weeks and weeks and weeks. If he can show some of that, if he steps up, if he rises to the occasion, there's a giant opportunity.
I mean, leaving aside the race, I just don't see how Director Comey can continue to run the FBI.
The credibility of that investigation, one thing after another, has just eaten away at the credibility.
It's really bad. Ed Henry, thanks a lot for that analysis.
Great to see you guys. Have a good weekend.
Great to see you. Thanks, Ed. All right, well, we showed you the violent riots breaking out in Charlotte. Well, what if we told you they were triggered on purpose to get out the vote for Democrats? That's next.
And months after their bitter primary battle, Ted Cruz says he will now vote for Donald Trump. What went on behind the scenes? Well, Eric Bowling joins us to react to this GOP stunner. That's coming up.
If I'm acting so distracted. A White House email account was hacked, and a lot of their information was leaked yesterday. They're saying the information was stolen from the Gmail account of a low-level staffer. Then Joe Biden was like, technically my title is vice president, but I mean, low-level staffer.
Hillary Clinton canceled her planned trip to Charlotte, North Carolina after a plea from the mayor asking political figures to stay away.
We appreciate the support of the candidates. We appreciate that they're concerned about Charlotte. At this point, we do have very stretched resources. If there will be a way to delay those visits in terms of giving us a chance to get our city, back to order and back to more of a state of normalcy, that would probably be ideal.
So let's say Hillary had gone to Charlotte. What would she have said? What could she have said? Joining us now is one of our favorite guests, radio talk show host Larry Elder, is live, I think, from L.A. Great to see you this morning, Larry. So I think conservatives make a mistake when they immediately jump to conclusions on things like this. We don't know exactly what happened. I'm withholding judgment. What we can judge, though, is the fact that riots took place in the streets. Crazy people looted stores, hurt other people, tried to burn to death a reporter. And Hillary Clinton didn't say word one about any of that. Why?
and nor by the way, has President Obama.
Right.
And let's look at this. This is a black suspect, excuse me, a black suspect who was killed by a black police officer whose boss is a black PD chief, and rioters are attacking white people. You know, what's wrong with this picture? And the other problem, of course, is that this whole Black Lives Matter movement, who's with George Soros' fingerprints all over it, Tucker, in 25 of the largest cities, you're finding an increase in homicide, and the victims of these homicides are often the very black people that Black Lives Matter claim that they care about. It's insane.
Well, it's also maybe counterproductive. I mean, Soros has many agendas. One of them is to get Hillary Clinton elected. But I think that normal people, swing voters watching this, think to themselves, you know, I don't know what the police make mistakes sometimes. Maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. But this is nuts. You should not tolerate this kind of craziness in your streets because that's the end of civilization. I don't think this makes people want to vote for Hillary more, does it?
I agree, and whatever happened to comply, you won't die. In almost every one of these high-profile cases, had the, excuse me, Tucker, it's early and I'm in San Diego. Early on, you know, if these people had just complied, whether it's Tulsa, whether it's Charlotte, the person would still be alive, and if the officer has engaged in any kind of misconduct, you deal with it while you're alive.
Right.
And I don't know why it's so condescending to tell black people, to tell people in the streets, if you're pulled over by an officer, be polite, be respectful, comply with lawful orders, and you will not die. Why aren't people saying that? They don't want to say that because it'll be perceived as blaming the victim. And I don't get this. I think it's condescending. The media treats blacks like they're children to whom the truth cannot be told. And Donald Trump has made the same mistake. He weighed in on Tulsa, and he said that he looked at the video and he couldn't see why the cop did what she did. Look, they indicted, they tried this, they charged this woman already within 48, 72 hours, Tucker. And I'm telling you right now, based on the ambiguity of that video, my suspicion is if it goes to trial, she will not be convicted.
I guess what bothers me most is the attack on the system. I mean, you saw it happen in Baltimore, too. Our political leaders and our judicial system is responding to the mob. Basically, the mob is getting what it wants by threatening violence against our civilization, and we're caving. That's a bad precedent, is it not?
Well, and think about who's running the system. People are complaining about institutional racism. Again, black cop, black PD chief, back-to-back black attorneys general, a black president. How do you complain about institutional racism when blacks are running the institution?
Yeah, I mean, it is mindless and bizarre. Larry Elder, thanks for putting that into context for us. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Good luck with your Hillary cough, too. It'll get better. Well, terror is on everyone's minds after the bombings in New York and those horrible stabbings in Minnesota at the shopping mall. It'll be front and center in the debate on Monday, too. Where do Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump stand on that question? Our terror experts, Jillian Turner and Dr. Sebastian Gorka, two of the best, are here to discuss it. And you won't believe what was flying right next to the Stars and Stripes on campus, a Black Lives Matter flag. We'll tell you where. Stay tuned.
And we're back with some quick headlines. SpaceX revealing the cause of a massive rocket explosion. The company now revealing that a breach in the helium system of the Falcon 9's liquid oxygen system caused the giant fireball earlier this month. The rocket was carrying a satellite to be used by Facebook. And taking matters into her own hands, a daring woman jumping on the hood of a car to stop a thief from stealing her purse. You can see it there, the Florida woman smacking the man with her wallet before falling off the car as the thief drives off. Police are still looking for that man. Clayton, over to you.
Debbie, well, securing America taking center stage in the first presidential debate on Monday. So how can it stack up on the topic of terrorism, especially with the attacks in New York and Minnesota still fresh in voters' minds, and, of course, what unfolded last night in Washington? We still don't know the details of that. Let's get reactions from our panel. Jillian Turner is a former White House National Security Council staffer under President George W. Bush and President Obama. And Dr. Sebastian Gorka is here as the author of the book, Defeating Jihad. You know, we haven't heard actually a plan to defeat ISIS, Dr. Gorka, and you say this book right here might actually be a good plan for Trump. So what will voters be looking for? What question will voters be asking themselves after Monday night's debate?
Well, we were actually talking about this with Jillian before we went on. They want the meat on the bone. So it's clear that Donald Trump believes we are at war. This is refreshing. He believes this is a serious threat and ISIS has to be defeated. And he wants to be a president who wins this war. So let's hear the details. And Monday could be a perfect time.
A perfect opportunity for him to lay out a plan. He hasn't laid out a plan yet. Hillary Clinton has. So what do you think? Good opportunity for him to do this?
I think it's a golden opportunity for him, and I think people would respond to it really, really well. And we're not talking about a battle plan, you know, because a lot of people push back and say, well, you shouldn't broadcast to the enemy what we're going to do. Of course not. We're talking about a sort of macro-level strategy that outlines his vision, outlines the general approach he's going to take, what elements it will combine, if he's going to include military and diplomatic and political and ideological, how that's going to work together, something that at least gives us the contours. I think Hillary Clinton has done a really good job of putting forward a plan like that. It's not for everybody. A lot of critics don't think it's viable, but to her credit, you can log on to her website and read it and decide for yourself. I think Donald Trump's got to step up and do that too.
So temperament, though, we saw in the wake of these recent terror attacks, two different styles emerging right away, right? Hillary Clinton was sort of reserved, and that hashtag zombie Hillary was trending because that video of her in the airplane where you couldn't really hear her, and then Donald Trump came out and said it was a bomb. We didn't really know any of the details. Was that what we'll be watching for on Monday night, temperament?
Not just temperament. I think Donald's proven his temperament towards the threat. This is a guy who wants to win, and that's what he's famous for, right? He's a winner. I think the issue is track record with regards to Hillary. The threat that we see in ISIS is in large part a result of policies that the Obama administration brought when she was Secretary of State. If you look at Libya, if you look at Syria, the red lines that weren't red lines, if you look at the withdrawal of our troops in 2011, if Donald Trump simply points these out, that ISIS has become the world's most powerful insurgency of the jihadist enterprise, whilst she was in cabinet, right, that's a problem for her.
That's a big problem. So, Julie, how does she defend herself?
So, well, the other problem, what she needs to do is be careful to not hedge herself in, which she's already doing. My biggest criticism of her kind of strategy on terrorism right now is that she's already making proclamations like, if I was president, I would never put another American boot on the ground in Iraq ever again. That's exactly the kind of approach that hedges in our military leaders unnecessarily. It really undercuts us on the international stage. And so if she can really stay away from reiterating that, I think that would behoove her a lot.
Do you think we're going to see the moment Donald Trump calling her out for the Iraq war? I mean, that was something he hit hard.
He's done it before. I think he's probably being advised right now to play it cool on Monday, to continue the presidential. I mean, this campaign has been turned around since Steve Bannon took over. In the last month, we've gone from problematic trailing, to a guy who in even states that were a slam dunk for Hillary, she may lose. So he has to maintain that steady hand.
Fascinating. All right. Interesting debate. We'll all be watching sort of like giddy. It's like Super Bowl time in the politics world.
Or biting nails.
I know. I don't have any left. Dr. Gorka and Jillian, great to see you this morning. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Coming up here on the show, Donald Trump and Ted Cruz battled during the primaries for months.
Lion Ted. He's Lion Ted. What's your name? My name's Lion Ted Cruz. L-Y-I-N apostrophe. Lion Ted.
I'm going to miss that. So what finally got Ted Cruz to back the Republican nominee? Eric Bolling is here to react to that next. If flying coach is bad enough, imagine getting the middle seat next to this guy. Let's just say the guy on the left is about to get his revenge.
Lion Ted. He's Lion Ted. What's your name? My name's Lion Ted Cruz. L-Y-I-N apostrophe. Lion Ted.
Lion Ted.
Oh, memories.
Eric Bolling.
That is hilarious. You got to admit.
Lion Tucker.
Author of the book Wake Up America. Nice to see you this morning, Eric. So, wow. I saw your tweet last night. Boom. That was the sound of the Never Trump movement's head exploding.
What great timing for Donald Trump that Ted Cruz finally comes around and says, you know, he's going to be my guy. And I think it really makes a lot of sense now. Perfect timing going into the debates. Momentum's on Trump's side right now. He's tightened the polls in a lot of cases. He's jumped ahead of Hillary Clinton in the polls. And now you get something really important with Ted Cruz. Number one, you get all those, there's a whole group of never Trumpers, right? Now that they may come and follow their candidate. Ted Cruz had a lot of the never Trump crowd with him. The establishment does as well, but had a lot of them with him. But you also get potentially the Hispanic vote. So Trump's polling somewhere around 27 to 32%, depending on the poll, with Hispanics. Ted Cruz may bring over some independent, maybe bring over some.
Well, let's be honest,
Hispanics
Ted Cruz is about Ted Cruz, too, right? He's thinking about his own political future. He's running for Senate again. Polls look like they could be tied if Rick Perry gets in there against maybe Castro brother. He's also thinking about maybe running again, and this timing might be good for him to say, I did everything I could to stop Hillary Clinton.
No doubt he had to do it politically. He had to do it, and especially since he signed the pledge to do exactly what he's supposed to do. I'd love to see John Kasich do it. However, I said this a long time ago during the primaries. If Donald Trump offered Ted Cruz a Supreme Court justice judgeship, man, that would be fantastic for everyone involved. It would also take Ted Cruz out of the 2020 play. If Donald Trump is the president, you don't want to be, you don't want to be.
But I don't think Cruz had to do it, because I mean, his position was, I'm not supporting Trump on principle because Trump isn't conservative. And that's the same point that a lot of the Never Trump people make. The same, by the way, the same ones who got us into Iraq and supported the bank bailout.
They all signed the pledge, though.
But leaving the pledge aside, like they said, this is a matter of conscience.
How can you have a conscience? How can you be a constitutional scholar and put your name on a document that promises to support the nominee?
I get it, but what are they saying?
Uses the infrastructure to continue on the primary process. He had to. I think he had. Politically, I think he had.
But what do the Never Trump people say now? Now that a man they've pointed to, Ted Cruz, as kind of the living embodiment of conservative principle, has endorsed Trump.
Yeah, their heads are exploding.
Well, I don't know what the difference between John Kasich is, because John Kasich said, look, there's too much water under that bridge. Well, is there less water under Ted Cruz's bridge? I mean, he talked about his father being involved in the JFK assassination,
about
for
his
crying
wife,
out loud.
about how she looks.
If you can come back from that, then what is John Kasich waiting for?
I don't know. Maybe timing. Maybe John Kasich jumps on after the debate, or somewhere, going into the third debate.
Well, and it seems like the Bushes may never be there. But you mentioned debates.
That is so important. I can't. My head almost went boom when I saw George H.W. Bush say he was going to not only not vote for anyone in this cycle, but he was going to vote for Hillary Clinton.
But wait, as a father, put yourself in a father's shoes. Okay, if a guy had come out repeatedly and just mocked your son, I don't think there's any bone in my body that would bounce back from that and say, you know what, I'm going to support you after you picked on my son
Clayton,
like that.
That as a father and a grandfather, you want your children and your grandchildren to have a country that's run by conservative values versus the liberal values that will take over if she's elected president. You have Supreme Court. You also have federal judges who are appointed by the president. Do you want Hillary Clinton to appoint the federal judge system and the Supreme Court, or do you want someone who took shots at your son?
Blood is thick in the water.
So going forward, so Trump goes to Mexico, meets with the Mexican president, gets a lot out of it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why wouldn't he say, you know what, I'm going to Dallas, and I'm going to meet with the former president, George W. Bush, and I'm going to, I mean, that would be kind of a power move, wouldn't it?
He'll probably never get that crew. He'll never get that establishment, never Trump crew. So why would
you think if he announced that, you think George W. Bush would say, you know, he can come here, but I'm not voting for him?
I'm sure they would meet with him. I'm not sure George would.
Politics can get so personal, it can get so ugly. But the debate is Monday night. Very curious as to what your advice would be for Donald Trump, because a lot of people are going to be watching, wondering if he can appear presidential on that debate stage.
You guys have been hitting the topic all morning long. I think you're 100% right. The most effective ads that Hillary Clinton has had is attacking Donald Trump with his own words on temperament. So if he shows that he has the temperament, I think the Mexico trip started the debate, the pro-Trump temperament discussion, saying that he has the temperament to be president. If he shows that in the debate, he doesn't get sucked into a lying Hillary or crooked Hillary back and forth. I think that'll go a long way to taking the legs out of those ads that have been effective. But also you can build. You have 3 presidential debates. You start here, you start low key, you just get out.
She's going to need get out. I mean, you talk to the Trump people, you know what they're thinking. Are they ready for Hillary? She's going to go bing, 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 bing until he explodes.
Well, you know the people who are prepping Trump.
Yeah, right.
They're pretty good at it. They've been around the block a few times. I think they know what's going on. That is the question, the $64,000 question. Does he listen to his crew? I think he will. Hopefully he does. And he goes, start slow, kick it up a notch in the second debate, and the third one, you know, bring it home, because then you're only, what, 2.5 weeks till the election.
I'm just struck by the paradox here, right? Because temperament wasn't the thing that got him this far. right? It was the fact that he was able to call things out, call Lion Ted, and now he has to get up there and kind of shift and act a little bit differently.
Yeah.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to square that circle.
So it's a well-known fact that in presidential elections, you start at the corners, you start far right, far left, and you attack yourself towards the middle. You evolve to a more centrist candidate. For Donald Trump, it was go Lion Ted, go small hands Marco, or little Marco, whatever he was talking about. And then he brought himself back to the center, brought himself back to the temperament that I think the American people, the undecideds needed to see to jump on board.
And that's exactly who he needs if he wants to win.
Big undecideds this election cycle. 20% are undecided right now. That's a huge opportunity for Donald Trump. By the way, very quickly, the math, the path, he needs Ohio, Florida, and North Carolina, or it's over, right? So he happens to be winning in all three of those in the polls. And then all he needs is either Pennsylvania or Michigan, and he's president. So she has 5 states to protect. He just has to get one of those 5.
Yeah, these debates are going to be huge. Eric, good to see you this morning.
Thanks,
great to be here.
We'll see you there.
See you at
I will see you there. The 5 will be there, too.
Awesome.
Outstanding.
All right, we do have some other headlines to get to this morning. Authorities revealing months after the fact what we already knew about Orlando shooter Omar Mateen, that he was a radical Islamic terrorist. The complete transcripts of the 911 calls just released, complete with his references to the Islamic State, which were previously left out. Mateen even calling himself an Islamic soldier, saying, quote, my homeboy Tamerlan Tsarnaev did his thing on the Boston Marathon. Now it's my turn, okay? Mateen shot and killed 49 people in the Pulse nightclub before being gunned down by police. Well, authorities now suspect Russian hackers were behind the massive cyber attack at Yahoo. This after the company catching serious flack for the breach, where 500 million user account information was stolen. Yahoo says hackers were looking for info on just a few dozen users who were doing business with Russia. A New York man is now suing Yahoo for gross negligence. And controversy on campus, a Black Lives Matter flag flying high right next to the American flag. Students at the University of Vermont surprised to see the showing of support from the student government. The flag expected to stay up through the weekend as the violent riots rage in Charlotte. And a lawyer suing for